2015 saw the first 8th generation console release from a franchise that found its footing a generation ago by providing unyielding destruction, chaos, and machismo with Just Cause 3. Just Cause 3 proved to be a very unique experience, as a game featuring next-generation physics and visuals in regards to the destruction its series protagonist Rico Rodriguez could produce at any given moment. The story and mission structure felt like something from the PS2 era, where developers were still trying to understand how to make a unique open-world game. Just Cause 3 was also hampered with a copious amount of bugs and optimization issues that overall hurt the game's performance, resulting in developer Avalanche Studios having to work extra hard and ensuring the next sequel wouldn't be slaughtered by gamers and critics for poor craftsmanship. With Just Cause 3 being my first experience with the series, I entered the sequel with the anticipation for more crazy action that sees my entertainment fade relatively quickly as I partake in repetitive missions and blowing up buildings somehow gets old. Just Cause series cover boy and apparent Superman Rico Rodriguez enters a South American civilization with the intent of liberating the land of Solis from a private army known as the Black Hand, looking to control the weather headed by antagonists who show up in the story's beginning, disappear for its majority, then reappear as the plot reaches its conclusion. By joining a group of rebel forces, Rico goes throughout the multiple provinces making up Solis to showcase his tie-in skills, shoot faceless enemies, and blow up almost everything around him, even if innocent lives are lost. I had only a few goals when it came to getting the full experience of Just Cause 4. Finish the story, liberate Solis, and maybe even pick up a few odd trophies here and there, including getting my name on all the competitive feats, usually connected to distances or kill streaks. After 15 or so hours, I wrapped up the story and was free to liberate the rest of the map, a feat that only took me an extra hour. But just like 3, the fun began to wane quickly without the story, making this around a 20-hour experience unless you want to complete all the stunt challenges and mundane side missions that would easily take a player an extra 20 to 30 hours to complete depending on their skill level. After Just Cause 3's turbulent release featuring major glitches, crashes, and an overall inability to play the game, Just Cause 4 promised to be a better experience both from a gameplay perspective and an optimization standpoint. The action of Just Cause 4 directly ties into Rico's mission to liberate a nation at war with the Black Hand while discovering some truth behind his father's untimely death. The story doesn't last long or have incredible moments outside of the latter missions, focusing on the game's newest system implementation, extreme weather effects. Blizzards, sandstorms, and most emphatically tornadoes will occur throughout the player's time exploring the diverse terrain of Solis, and even some of the story missions are built on working through these catastrophic events of nature that prove to be the best missions of the game. Unfortunately, the weather barely makes an impact on the overall experience, with everything but tornadoes rarely occurring during a gameplay session, even when Rico is moving through the areas made to freeze, soak, or blind him. The entertainment of sailing through a lightning storm, courtesy of Rico's infamous wingsuit, is only matched by the repetitive nature of almost every other mission the player must complete in hopes of liberating Solis. Instead of having to fill up a chaos meter before an area can be liberated like in Just Cause 3, the player will take part in region strikes that are usually either escort missions or moments where Rico has to flip switches and protect a raised satellite from destruction by taking on waves of enemies. Sometimes all the boring elements mentioned come together for a particular strike. Timed missions, such as driving explosive cars into nearby beds of water, can become incredibly strenuous when the game can't stay stable. Side missions attached to 3 minor characters both add variety to the mission structure and reiterates the game's repetitive nature. One minute Rico is working with a Tomb Raider, The next sees stuck babysitting brain-dead ally AI, who refused to help their leader tear down the radio towers they were meant to destroy as a part of their training. In the middle of it all is the Frontline Advance function, a gameplay modification to the overall liberation of Solis. With the filling of a chaos meter in the top right corner of the screen, Rico gains soldiers to join the rebellion. Depending on what area has been liberated and or features region strikes completed, Rico can advance the troops to take control from the Black Hand. Yet there is no micromanaging or protection of these taken areas, as one would expect from this apparent real-time strategy implementation. Instead, these liberated sections just provide loot. A player can request to be dropped at anywhere at almost any time. To traverse such a grand land is less of a chore and more of an experience, thanks to 3 key items: the aforementioned wingsuit, a parachute, and the tether, the game's answer to the grappling hook. Gamers can string together all 3 items to fly through the digitized clouds like a murdering eagle. Use the tether to reel Rico in, only to tap the jump button to open up the parachute and gain maximum height that allows for another button tap that sees the hero turn into a living bird with his wingsuit. Once the player gets the hang of using these 3 items together, it makes jetting around Solis a lot more fun than using a jet itself, especially considering the way vehicles handle don't make using cars, bikes, or planes a fantastic experience, especially when a majority of the game's glitches are attached to vehicles. But the tether isn't just a way to take Rico from one point to another. Actually, the tether proves to be one of Rico's greatest weapons. The tether allows Rico to attach objects and pull them together, be it soldiers firing at Rico or a tank into a fuel tank. An interesting addition to the tether is the ability to modify its abilities, including adding boosters or lifter balloons that can propel objects and enemies, or send them flying before popping and dropping to the earth respectively. Tether modifiers are attached to completing character-specific side missions, tombs, and the returning challenges, now known as stunts, which remove the gears system that saw players having to replay challenge after challenge in hope of getting the best score to earn enough gears with the intent of upgrading Rico's weaponry and abilities in Just Cause 3. Stunts in Just Cause 4 simply have Rico going through rings under certain scenarios and conditions, like flying with a wingsuit or speeding through the goal at a specific speed, to earn enough experience to eventually total into tether mod points. Though sometimes attempting to test out Rico's new toys will prove to be underwhelming when in the middle of a firefight. Gunplay remains the same, feeling like this generation's answer to a Saints Row game, with Rico running and gunning without much finesse as enemies pour into the quote-unquote arena. Auto-aim doesn't function with the character or its enemies moving, meaning the player will have to work double to make it effective. There is practically no cover system, with the player being forced to make their own cover by hiding behind a brick wall or a steel beam if they can find one in time. But Rico can at least crouch now. Melee isn't much better, as it only allows the protagonist to whip his tether outward, without any type of accuracy, and may even turn Rico around in the opposite direction of where the player intended. The AI, both ally and adversary, is still severely lacking. Is either dumb as dirt or a sniper with a shotgun. Fighting enemies with weaponry can be like shooting fish in a barrel, as the faceless soldiers just stand around waiting for the inevitable or go into survival mode with the precision and accuracy of a sharpshooter, no matter what weapon the target is holding. Enemies are also bullet sponges, who are blessed with incredible life bars, though the problem with headshots not causing one-hit kills in Just Cause 3 has been fixed here. When it comes to allies, they don't help as much as they hinder, by usually being plain stupid and easy targets who, if their health is depleted during a mission, where the allies are in the trenches alongside Rico, then its mission failed. Thankfully, it seems Buddy AI have bigger health bars this time around. Or maybe it's because the enemy AI has such a hard time hitting their targets. This is made even worse later in the game, where enemy waves grow more profound without the enemies themselves getting smarter. just artificial difficulty thanks to the addition of mounting numbers rather than actual challenging enemies, including moments of obvious enemy teleportation in areas where there's no way an enemy could have entered without the player seeing them. But a showcase of repetition and the lacking narrative doesn't compare to the game's biggest flaw: technical issues. While not as bad as Just Cause 3 in regards to optimization, as loading screens are relatively fast, frame rates stay stable a majority of the time, and not once did the game crash. Just Cause 4 is incredibly unpredictable in regards to glitches that can result in vehicles driving themselves or helicopters randomly exploding in the middle of a mission when a person is attempting to land. As the game progressed, the more intrusive the glitches became, hurting the overall fun as moments of planning can easily be ruined. Just Cause 4 essentially feels like a game that exists, a sequel that doesn't do much better than its predecessor, while failing to overcome the benchmark set by not only what came before it in the franchise, but also all the other impressive open world games that came out during 2018. Similar to its most recent predecessor, Just Cause 4 is definitely a game stuck in the past. While the traversal system is still impressive, and destroying helicopters by attaching them to fuel tanks feels wonderful, the problems that plagued Just Cause 3 still ring true here, and at times are even more profound in their lacking creativity when looking at what Just Cause 3 had to offer, as a majority of the missions are uninspired. The only real additions to the gameplay boil down to non-existent or underwhelming in execution, the dynamic and destructive weather system, and the tether mods that usually aren't great tools to play around with in the heat of battle. Add that to the fact the story is incredibly lacking in emotion while attempting to be as serious as a tornado ripping apart a town, especially when in contrast to Rico humming Rise of the Valkyrie when repeatedly firing off rounds from a helicopter. Then there are the returning technical issues that range from hilarious to counterproductive in regards to completing a mission. Even some of the destructive elements from Just Cause 3 are missing here. Other than the improved optimization in regards to frame rates and crashing, there's not much here that Just Cause 3 doesn't do better. It's sad that the Just Cause series has crafted a fun formula that hasn't advanced in presentation and results in feeling like more or even less of the same, instead of being a brand new experience worthy of your time and money, especially if you already own Just Cause 3.